for me. We will find some way to get this video transmitted online in these instructions in video form. The page online you will see is a 3-page insert that's there, and it has a parts list. That parts list, the only thing I didn't include on it is the diameter of the rods.
I'm gonna chime in if I can.
Yeah, please do.
And say you could use anything. So well, you're welcome to use something similar to this. I think what Adam's trying to say is these stars are very forgiving and flexible, and so whatever materials you have that, essentially I would say the most important thing is having 10 pieces that are the same length and size, and then 5 of these little struts, sometimes even 10 of these little struts, as you can see with a star like this having a piece between there. But I'm going to kind of keep us moving because I know we're on a time crunch. And so hopefully at this point,
we'll get back to them.
Yeah, you have your star frame. While Adam was talking, I went ahead and did the same thing to make my other one. At this point, they're wiggly and wobbly, right? So I can kind of adjust them to match each other. So Adam mentioned having them match up is an important part. And so what I'll start doing is securing with tape these 5 points in the middle of our star. And then once I have that, I can use that as my reference to tape the second star frame in place. So let's go ahead and start getting that secured. Once you have your star in a shape, kind of a short stout star, you can see better. It can be a very equilateral star, right? You can kind of wiggle it and wobble it, whatever shape you'd like. I'm going to go with the classic, more evenly based. Again, do that twist of tape around that edge. And then you'll just kind of try to show this as best as I can. You want to connect that tape on all edges of that plane. So we're making this a really secure connection now. So hopefully that, as I wiggle it, it's not supposed to wiggle. So you want that tape nice and squished down so that joint is firmly in place. And then you'll just repeat that process on all 5 of these steps. Again, connecting that tape to one stick so that you can lock it in place on the others. Adam was mentioning with these particular diameter of these dowels, these are a lot firmer than some of the materials we've used in the past. So actually a thinner type of dowel will give your star more flexibility when it comes to bending the points together, which is an option. Again, the nice thing about these stars is they are very forgiving. And if you break them, we have lots of solutions about how to fix them, which is also kind of a lovely part of this process.
Can you come back to me real quick, Don? I just want to illustrate what Stina just said. While she was talking, she reminded me, you can literally make stars out of anything. These are just straws. And while she was talking, I went ahead and pulled some out just to show you. You can literally make them out of anything straight. It doesn't even have to be straight. There can be a bend in it. And what she's talking about, the dowels, I don't know if you can see the diameter difference in these. These are very small, and these are a little bit too big. You want something like Goldilocks right in between. And here's why. If they're too small, they just snap. This is very easy. They're a little too fragile. Now these, they're strong, but when we go to put them together, they will, at one time, the edges will be apart, and you'll want to bring them together. And you'll see when the thickness of these that we included based on measurements from previous years with slightly smaller dowels in circumference. We have solutions for you, but if you snap a rod during this process, don't worry about it. It's very, very easy to fix. That's why you have the tape, and we'll talk you through some of that. I just wanted to show you that don't get caught up too much on having the exact right material. Though, in consideration of that, I will update the parts list with an appropriate size rod this weekend. I'll figure it out, and I'll put that online for you to find.
Okay, awesome, take that.
Yeah.
Okay, so at this point, I'm getting to the part where we're kind of trying to match our star frames. So you're able to kind of wiggle things around. Put that off a little to the side. So just matching things up as best we can. Again, remembering that these stars are pretty forgiving. And that takes around and then cross matching over. This is getting us close to our next step, where we're going to take these 2D frames and make our object 3-dimensional. So again, you see how this star has some fluke to it. Once all of these joints are secured, there's one more to go. We're gonna do the tricky part. That is adding the struts in between. All right, so you have your star frames. You should have 2. These 5 pieces that are shorter are going to be part of our next step. And this is where be very mindful of that taping around the edge of, let's see if I can get into a good spot for you. Taping onto your strut in the middle, because we want this to be securely attached to our star frame. So once you have the tape on there, you're going to position it at a perpendicularly to your star, and you're just going to kind of use that tape to hug this into place. And so you'll notice on your frame, there are parts of the frame that are going to be higher on, so you kind of imagine picking a side that we're going to have all 5 of these pieces coming out of. You're going to put the base of that dowel on the lower strut, and that's going to act as a support as you kind of cross that tape over and tape it in place. A lot of it is kind of just feeling it out, which isn't great for extending things, I know. But because the base of this middle part will be touching the stick, that's going to give you a secure frame to work with when we get to the final step here. So go ahead and I'll walk through that again. Another piece of tape. Wrapping it around our strut. Again, looking at our plane here. I'm going to find the stick that's lower. I'm going to place my strut base of it against the lower stick, and then cross that tape over and around to secure that little dowel in place. Again, we're going to do this 3 more times with the intention that eventually we're going to connect our star on top of it. Like, working my camera angles here, like so. All right. There's that special tape that I was talking about. And wrapping it around. This might be another good time for us to check in and see if people have more questions.
Let's see. No additional questions at the moment.
No additional questions at the moment.
Can we?
Dennis has a question.
So if I understand your question correctly, so what Janice is illustrating is if she has a stick that comes out and sticks longwise, you can't see that little tiny dowel,
Right.
this way, if it extends beyond, is that going to be an issue? And the answer is, it can be. That said, it really does need to be stated. So, I would think amongst all of the participants right now at this point in the workshop, some of your stars do not look like this. Some of your stars are cattywampus. And I want to just encourage you that of all of the people that began this project in 2012, I was the absolute worst. I was the worst. I couldn't even make a star. I didn't get it. I was so far from accurate. It doesn't have to be perfect, Janice. When you make your star, the final steps will be more obvious to how you can modify it to still be cute. The purpose of this is not perfection. The purpose of this is to create something that you like and that brings you joy in its own form. This is the first star that you're going to make. In the future, you will be able to make better ones. Go easy on yourself.
All right. That is a perfect segue into the hardest part. So now that you have those 5 kind of, I'm going to call them center struts attached to one of your frames, we are now going to attach the second star frame to those pegs. Again, you can kind of line up and decide, okay, I like how that one fits together. Or maybe switch it around. Again, there's some forgiveness to this, so however you like that. We're going to set that to the side for a moment and go ahead and put a piece of tape, again, around that middle piece. And then again, we're still trying to line up the base of that strut with one of the support sticks so that it has that secure base when we try to bend our points together. And so you can just lay that on top and then again do more of this tape cross hatching, spinning it around a couple directions to firmly attach that middle piece to the second star. Now you'll notice we only have one attachment point, things are still kind of wobbly wibbly, and so as you go along, things will get more secure, so you can kind of spread that away, secure your piece of tape in your strut, set that on top, close that. Using those star sound effects. And start securing that. And the idea with this is that these points will touch, but the thing with the tallness of this, we're gonna see how well that works. But again, it's gonna be a little bit of Groundhog's Day, right? We did the first 2, and now we're gonna repeat that with the final 3. Spin that tape around the post and the lower point. Really secure that. And then what we'll do at some point is we'll kind of do a stress test on our star. And we'll find out spots that, oh, our dowel has slipped, or oh, we need a little more tape here. And that is totally part of the process. Hopefully you're out there having fun with this. I think that's definitely part of the goal, is to enjoy making this star today.
Can we switch over to me, John, just real quick? I want to reiterate, this is the hardest part. This is literally the hardest part for me even still. And I want to show you some tricks that I have learned over time that have made this particular part just a little bit easier. If you have your support here, you take your tape and you begin by putting the tape on it and doing one circle around. So now your dowel is already secured at that point. And then you want the dowel, you want the support to be put up against the inside of the support right here. You want it up against the star itself. Because you're going to put your other star here and it's going to press against each other. And when it presses against, you just want to make sure that it's as good as possible in the right place, so it doesn't puncture through the paper on the other side. And then you take it just like Stina showed you, and you just wrap it around. I'm not sure you can see my fingers very well, but your struts are going to be, they're going to be off center, they're going to look weird, they're going to be, until you get this down, it's not going to be perfect. Don't worry about that. You see, as you start to put it on, right here, it's still not right, that still wouldn't work. And you just, now that it's already kind of set in place, now you just firm it up a little bit. Get another piece of tape. Turn it on the corner, right around. And there you go. Your strut's in place. Be patient with yourself. It's kind of like life.
Arts and crafts, life advice.
Yeah.
All right, so hopefully for those of you plunking right along, I'm going to move us forward to the next step. Again, if you're not there yet, just keep working. This part is the tricky part just due to the length of these middle pieces and the thickness of these dowels. It makes it so this material is not as flexible. So this next part is a little tricky, and it's still going to work to put the tips of our stars together. It's just going to feel like there's a lot of strain. So that's part of why we really did as best of a job as we could to enforce these connections. Because when you pinch the tips of your star together, you're going to feel there's a lot of pressure there. So again, that trick of taking the tape and wrapping it around a piece to establish that secure tape connection before moving on to the next part of it, or attaching another point, is going to be pretty critical. And so I have this tape wrapped around one point of my star, and I'm just going to gently pinch those 2 points together and use that tape to wrap around the second piece. And let's kind of test, okay, feel it? I feel like I want one more piece of tape on there, because there's a lot of tension. So go ahead and wrap another piece around. That's secure. Beautiful. Okay, and then what I'm noticing is it seems easier to go from my connected point across, just based on how I'm feeling the materials. And so I think that's gonna put some equal strain on our object. So go ahead and move from your point that you taped across to the other point. Again, wrap that tape around a couple times before, again, gently pinching, but firmly pinching those together, putting that tape around. I also like the move where you're kind of weaving that tape between those dowels. That will kind of create some more connection points and really secure your star in place. So essentially, you're just kind of making it up, really. Like, you can weave the tape around, you can do wraps, but some combination of all of that seems to be pretty successful in making this frame. So again, it's Groundhog's Day. We're going to do that with the other points. We're just going to go around our star, putting those together. I feel like these next two are going to be easiest. How do we go with that?
No more questions at the moment. No, that's 16 to 16. But it wasn't prompting to ask questions.
Yeah, for those of you who are, would be curious, where are you at in the star process? How's it going for you? Do you have any questions, any wonders about how, it doesn't seem like something's working, or I need some clarification about what were you talking about when you said leave the tape? I don't understand. So happy to try it. use our words to make that better. Again, put that tape around the point. And then push those together. Awesome. I'm gonna do one more piece of tape there, just I want our star popping off. Alright, and then we're down to one more point. Oh, this is exciting. And also, maybe in working on with these materials, you can start to imagine, like, okay, I can make other shapes. What other shapes might you be interested in making with these materials? You know, I've made a sea cucumber before. The first one we ever made. Alright, so here's something I'm noticing. We have a support strut that's gotten loose. So because of all this tension, I'm noticing that this one has lost its place in our star lineup. And so I need to kind of just need strong hands for that, but just try and pop that back into place and tape, 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 tape. That's the key. Add some extra support right on there. Great. So noticing, see how that one's starting to pop off underneath. Let's see if I can shift that under. So it's pressing on the stick. At least those the struts in line with the support beams. It can press on that instead of the tape, and I think that will make it last a little longer. So again, we're just going to tape that in place. Oh, shift it again. All right. Cool. Looking good. So at this point, you should, you'll be somewhat close to getting your star in its framed form. And this is that base structure that we're then going to cover in tracing paper. So Adam mentioned there's a couple different types of paper that you have in your kit. Some of it is the colorful, beautiful tissue paper. I have blue. I also noticed in my kit it was decorated with yellow, so I'm going to go ahead and cut those up into little squares using the scissors provided in your kit. Yay, safety scissors. Set that off to the side for a second, and
I just want to ask Tina, can I interrupt you for just one moment?
Absolutely.
We have 20 minutes left. And the papering is only going to take you probably 10 to 15 minutes. And I just want to show everyone where I'm at.
Okay. Perfect.
So Stina and I met in 2013. It was the second year of the Stars for Peace, and we had a lot of experience with other team members. And then Stina comes along, and she's better than almost like all of us. Her star, you see, is, as you've already seen, she's already it's done. And in the same amount of time, I want to show you what I've been able to do. I'm still here. It's okay if you're there. Some of us just take more time, and I've done 100 of these. I want to reiterate just this one portion because this took me a while to get, and it may take some of you at home a little while to get. What's important is that the struts are aligned. And what I do is I run a piece of tape, I circle it around the dowel like I showed you, to start it so that it's secure and it's not going to just fall off. You got other things to worry about, I don't want tape falling off. And then I take the tape itself, I make sure that the dowel is against the star on the other side, and I wrap it around just to hold it in place. I'm not trying to finally secure it. I'm just trying to hold it in place so it doesn't fall off. And you can see it's ugly. It doesn't look quite right. It's not even finished yet, it's not even close. But I do that around the rest of the star. So I then go on one of the opposite sides, on the opposite side, and I start that around the tape around, so my hands are free, and I still don't have to worry about my star falling off, because y'all are probably dealing with that. It happens. And then I just put another piece of tape around, and I'm just holding it in place. It's not secure yet, it's not final. It doesn't have to look perfect, there's no such thing as that. Even in nature, the most perfect things are flawed. And then you're there, and you'll do that, as Stina said, you'll do it like Groundhog Day. So that's two of the points. I want to show you then what I do. I then take it, and sometimes, I'll just do this for illustration purposes. I like to have my tape a little thinner. I just prefer it, it's a little easier. You don't have to do it, it's just sometimes easier to work with. And then you firm up your support. You just make it a little tighter. And the way I do that is on the inside. I go ahead, hopefully you can see what I'm doing as I bring the tape around the dowel. So that's around the inside dowel, the support, and then I wrap it around the frame of the star. And in order to get these struts strong enough, you may need to do that a few times. Just because Stina's a speed demon. Some of us are slow, and that's okay. Just keep at it. I just wanted to say that. Thank you, Stina.
Awesome, thanks, Adam. And you can see my star is a little wiggly too. Like, again, it's whatever you make it, and it'll be great. So I'm gonna shift just in the interest of busting out stars in an hour. Again, usually it does take more time. So wherever you're at, have patience with yourself and grace. We're happy that you're participating. So the next step to your frame is to paper. And so there's the white and the canary colored tracing paper that we're going to use to cover our star so we can get to a space like this. So for that, you're going to need to, I would recommend putting out either newspaper or some sort of drop cloth because the glue will get drippy. So for managing messes, I'm going to go ahead and use this tracing paper below as my crafting space. And then depending on the glue, you either have fun cool bottles like this that Adam filled up, thanks Adam, or a bottle of Elmer's. And to paper, we're essentially putting this tracing paper onto the frame of the star. And I know Adam and I do these steps both also a little differently, which sometimes you can glue the paper to your star and then cut away those extra pieces later. I like to do that all in the same fell swoop. So I'm going to teach you how I like to do it, and then we'll pop it over to Adam, and he can tell you more about that. So for this part, I'm going to do that nice canary paper. I'm making sure that it can cover my star. And so I'm going to go ahead and do a line of glue. I'm just going to trace this top frame with the glue that I have. And so you're just going to do a nice, fairly solid. If it's goopy and drippy, that's okay. But you're just going to get some glue on every surface of that frame. You'll notice some dip lower, just based on kind of that weaving pattern of our stars. Not a-okay. This might not have paper touching this. All right, so now that you have glue on all edges of your frame, you're pretty much just going to take your paper and flop it. And that's going to just stick to the glue. And I'm going to kind of cut the paper down, lay it out, and then I like to take scissors and just kind of cut along the edge. So leaving myself about an inch of paper along the edge of that glue. You can see the glue through the paper, so you kind of get this nice tracing line. So an inch further out with direct cuts in is what we're going to do. We're going to be folding this paper onto the inside, and so you're going to have that extra inch of paper to fold underneath. But first, let's go ahead and just cut that around the edges. Chop off at the tip, about an inch below. Chop off at the tip. And then a direct cut right into the middle. I like this part because it doesn't have to be pretty. This is just getting that base layer of paper. So for the tracing paper, it has a fairly good strength to it. And so we've noticed that if you were to get the tissue paper wet compared to your tracing paper, the tracing paper is going to have much more durability than the tissue paper, which just falls apart. So this tracing layer paper layer is important because it gives your star, it'll make it last longer. You can't promise that these stars will last forever, but they are pretty impressive in the conditions. We've been out in some parades of gale force winds, sideways rain, and the stars have made it. So I'm always impressed with that. All right. Once you have that layered out, then I like to go in and just give a cut right directly into the middle of those, and that's going to let me be able to fold my tracing paper in. I also prepared some like a 50-50 blue water mix, which is going to be important for our kind of paper mache step where we add color to our star. But I like to use this part, just add a little glue underneath that tracing paper so that when I do that fold, it's stick nicely. So, quick grab along the edges. And then this part lets you kind of get that tracing paper nice and tight. So I'm going to pick a triangle to start with. And what I'm doing is I'm just using my fingers to roll that paper around the dowel and just kind of go along the edge to make sure that tracing paper is stuck. And then you can go along the other side, do the same thing. And this is the opportunity where you can kind of stretch that tracing paper nice and taut. And you do that nice and little bit. You'll see glue kind of gets everywhere, so I'm not going to worry about that. It's all going to get covered up later. And then I'm just going to wrap around the next one. Glue that paper down. Glue this paper down. And get it all the way around. And boom, you have one base of your star paper. Just like that. Pat it down, make sure you're good to go. And then flip it over, and you'll do the same thing on the other side. I am going to hold these extra strips off to the side because they will be useful in papering the edges, which we'll talk about after we do this next side of the star. Go ahead, let's see. Actually, in the interest of time, I'm going to pause there, and we're going to move to the side part. It's going to happen, so imagine you've papered both sides of your stars, and then for the edges, it's going to be very similar in that you're just going to trace wherever there's frame with the glue. And then I like this part, you kind of get to play a puzzle game and see which parts of your extra paper fit over onto your star. It's okay if you're missing holes, because you can just take more tracing paper later, flop it over. And so that's just gonna fit there. You can trim off about, use again that inch of extra paper along the edges. Give it a cut where there's joints. And then for this, you'll see that we have one side where there's paper. Again, that glue on this side will help you glue that down. And just rip it, tear it, make it do what you want it to do. And then again, folding these around that dowel. So you eventually will have your star completely covered in that tracing paper. And then, while I think the framing part is really fun, this is where I think Adam would say the fun begins. Once you have your star paper, we do recommend leaving one of these sides open as a gap, because included in your kit is a light and that beautiful red string. So you want an opening for yourself to be able to put your luminary objects inside. But before we get to that, I'm going to talk you through the decorating part. Again, there's the watercolor kits included. You're welcome to watercolor on top of your tracing paper. Or, again, making that glue mixture. So essentially, a half water, half glue solution. You'll just mix that up. And then I like to just do a basic layer of that on top of the star. And then you get to get creative. So if you want to use the tissue paper included in your kit, and I use multiple colors. We can get pretty fancy here. And then you'll just essentially paper mache in a way where you're using that glue as almost your paint to stick this tissue paper down onto the frame, onto the tracing paper on your star. You can do this, you can do really intricate patterns, you can do solid colors, you can really make it however you want to. I like to go onto all the sides, so completely covering my star with that colorful paper, I think is really beautiful. And so with that, I think we have about 5 more minutes before our time is up, so I don't know if there's other things you'd like to cover. But yeah, at this point, you'll work on getting your star completely covered in that tracing paper, and then you can move on to bedazzling it with your tissue paper.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to assume by now that most people are closer to Stina, whereas mine, I'm still just almost done with the framing part. Your struts need to be secure and firm. If not, just do a little more tape. And then I'm just going to do one more quick. When you're securing the, pulling the tips together, you'll see mine don't match exactly. And that's okay. They don't have to be perfect. Just make a star shape with the tape. Imperfection is perfectly fine. And then I do one more for good graces. You don't want things coming apart. I'm going to use not the roll of tape, I'm going to use the other tape that we made your rolls out of. And I'm going to show you how I do a quick papering, because this is the one thing I was good at early on. You can just use the glue. You just need to take your glue and glue on all of the outside of the star. The full star pattern needs to have glue on it. And I just do it just like this with the bottle. But you don't have to. You can use a brush. Early on, nobody liked to do the papering this first papering, everyone was good at making the shapes. And I wasn't. So I papered everybody's stars. And I got a little good at it. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just get the glue on there. This part gets messy, let it be messy. The best parts of life start with messes. Now that it's all on, I'm going to take a big piece of I'm going to use the canary yellow just to be different. What you do is you take a big piece of it. Yours are already made about this size. And you just, as flat as you can, just like Stina showed you. Just as flat as you can, let it just fall down right on top of the stone. And then I start from the center on the struts themselves, on the wood where the glue is. I start at the center where the pentagon is, and I work out towards the tip of the star. And that's just how I do it. And then you should have something like this. And you'll notice you want the glue to be as much against the paper as possible. And now what she has shown you is that you let it dry, and then you cut it away. Not all of us have the patience to let it dry, and you don't have to. If you're an advanced student and you're wearing gloves, you can get a razor blade. You just razor it right off. It works fine. I wouldn't suggest it for your first time around. And the second thing that I would do is you just do the same on the other side. Once you paper the other side, which I'll do here in just a moment, I would suggest letting it dry. And this is why we did the final instructions online. It's just easier to cut the paper away without it pulling off of the star. You don't want it to pull away from the star and then you get frustrated with it. Just let it dry. And then do what Stina is doing.
Adam, can you tell us about the star seeds before we're done? Once we're done, once your star's done?
I will. Now once you have both sides dry, I want to show you a trick that I learned that I like to do to make the star a little bit easier to paper on these insides, the inside planes, the triangles that are made up between the star pairs. If you take your scissors and you cut at an angle, estimate your angles, you'll be able to fold the paper over each side. It may not make sense in my words, but it will make sense once you begin the process. You don't even have to do the sides. You genuinely don't. You can have the sides open. And some people like it that way. But most people like to have it enclosed. And once your star is complete, what we call first paper, we've made an instructional video that you can do. You can see what Stina is doing online. We want to thank A Little Creative, the learning place it's a Tacoma-owned business that is across the bridge, second exit off of Olympic Drive in Gig Harbor. And they are a wonderful family-owned business. And what they allowed us to do is they allowed us to come in. We explained that we wouldn't get through the final paper. We got a little further along with Stina than we imagined, but we pre-made that star. We don't expect that you're going to be that far ahead because that star was pre-made. And we made an instructional video that will be online by tomorrow. So let your star dry today, and tomorrow revisit, or sometime during the week, go to tacomajoy.com, and you will see a video that was made with A Little Creative. If you have any students of all ages, that is a truly wonderful family. that runs that place. They enrich lives with creative activities. They teach people math, advanced things. They're good people. Now, once the star is finished and you have it papered the way you like it, I want you to know that you don't have to finalize the paper the way Stina is doing it. You can use your watercolor kit. You can use translucent paints. In other words, you can get acrylic paints. And thinly, if you do it right, you don't want too much, because if you have too much paint on there, you're not going to have any light come through. To have the light come through, you must have some transparency, or some translucence is what they call it. And there are lots and lots of ways to decorate a star. If you go to the Tacoma Joy website, you'll be able to find the Stars for Peace website through that website. And there's Make a Star under the Stars for Peace website through the Tacoma Joy. I have dozens of stars on display there that you can go and get good ideas for. It's all there. Once your star is to that point, that it's finished, it's the color you want it, and you're happy with it. There are two things left to do. First, the red thread that's there with your light. The way you get these lights to hold on is you take off the battery cover, you thread the red thread over the battery, and you put the lid back on it. You put the battery cover back on it. And lo and behold, you have a light that dangles. When you are finishing your star from the paper, some people cover all of the triangles. All of these, they're completely covered. You gotta cut a hole in it. So I leave one of these blank. And for those of you that cut your paper all the way off, so that you have two papered star planes, you're just gonna have to repeat that process of gluing on the inside here of these triangles around the star, on the edges, and let that dry. It's really not too cumbersome, but it can get messy. You let it dry and you cut it away. And then your star, more or less, looks like this. Once your star is to how you like it, we decided to build, you'll have two of these. We noticed that most people make stars in pairs. Some people make them on their own. A lot of people do it with a friend or loved one. And if you take the blue film off of these, you'll see what you have is a clear lens. And our idea this year is to incorporate, this is something new that came out this year. And we want you to consider for a moment what brings you joy in your life. And before you light up your star, take a Sharpie. It's a clear lens so that you have a clear idea. Have it clear in your mind what brings you joy. Think about it for a moment. Consider it. Write it out on the lens in a Sharpie. Drop it in your star. And think about that. What brings you joy for a little bit. Just consider it. Consider what it would feel like. And remember the red thread, in our understanding in America, is what brings us all together. And all of our joys throughout the city are somehow connected. Just an idea for this year. You drop it in, and then you light it up. It is that simple. And hopefully we bring a little more joy to our city at a time. And all of us could use a little more.
Yes. If you're wondering how to get that, I like Adam's technique of the thread underneath the battery pack lid. dropping that in. You can poke secret, it works better when it's dry, but poke a little hole to tie that knot so that your light dangles dangles inside your star, and then you can easily retrieve that, turn your light on and off as you light up your beautiful stars. And I just want to say thank you all for rocking and rolling with us and making these luminary stars.
Yeah.
Stars for peace.
And for everybody, what we've noticed is that these stars only put out so much light, and they work with white stars surprisingly well. Some of you will inevitably paint your stars colors that are darker than white, or you'll use tissue papers that are a little bit darker. And people like those string fairy lights that you can get. Just Google fairy lights. You can find them for $6 and $7 all over the place. They're LED. They come with the batteries already. You just take those and drop them in the star, spread it all around inside the star, and you light it up. And it looks, it's brilliant. So we'll have, again, further instructions and things like that online. Give us until tomorrow, Sunday the 21st. And TacomaJoy.com. You'll find the star steps under the library tab in the middle, and we'll talk you through anything else. If you have any questions for us, don't hesitate to reach out through that Tacoma Joy website. You can ask us directly. The email address is probably not on there. I'll share it with you. It's Music Heart Destiny. Music, like we listen to, heart like heart and soul, and destiny like the city of destiny. Music Heart Destiny at protonmail.com. Proton, proton like the light particle, mail.com. And you can also get to us through the, there's just not a survey, there's just a contact form on that website, and that'll also get to us. However you want to touch base with us with any questions. And then we're going to ask you to just take pictures of your stars if you're up for it. If you want to take some pictures of you smiling with friends, that's even better. Help us raise attention for youth. We have been working with Tacoma's Hope Victims Advocacy Foundation. We've been working with them since, acted really strongly since 2016. First year was 2015. And Adrienne Castile has helped families reestablish after exceptionally difficult circumstances for more than 2 decades in our city. She's an under-recognized powerhouse in my book, and she has a youth program, and we're going to be raising support for youth directly through the Hope Victims Advocacy Foundation. And we will be working with local radio, podcasts, and other social and online media to raise awareness in general about what youth go through when they don't have shelter in our city. And we're just going to open up a community dialogue around that issue. And through the Stars for Peace, we're going to ask our community to support youth through this critical season. Thank you again for being part of this. It really is a joy to have you. And I just wish you the best.
We'll turn it over to Gabby for closing remarks.
That was amazing. I didn't have a kit with me, but I'm gonna go and pick up some, dowels or something and get to work papering as soon as I can. Thank you all so much for helping us out with that and showing us how to make these amazing luminaries that, as you mentioned before, can be carried around with you. There's the Tacoma Light Trail and the Tacoma Creates. So I just wanted to say a quick few thanks to everyone who helped put this workshop together. I want to say thank you to Stars for Peace and Adam and Tina, of course. And I want to say thank you to Rosemary of the Tacoma Light Trail for connecting us in the first place and being the reason why we're doing this today. And to the Tacoma Creates City Initiative Program. And special thanks to John Hargis of the Digital Media Lab. I think we should give him a round of applause because you have no idea, he was such a maestro, putting all this together with the different cameras and the music and making this a super special event. So before I go, I just want to let you know about our next Tacoma Creates program. That's going to be on December 4th at 4 p.m., I believe. And that is storytelling with music with Kareem Condi. So that's going to be a live music event, virtual. So be sure to go online and register for that event so that way we can send you the event link an hour before the meeting. And to just keep an eye out for more of our Tacoma Creates programs that we're going to have throughout the rest of the year. Well, thank you all so much, and I hope you have fun papering, and as Adam mentioned before, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Bye, all have a great day.
I see lots of waves, lots of applause.
Yay, thank you. Thank you.
We're out in 10 seconds.
Big thanks to Gabby and John.
Thank you.
Yes, definitely.
And show us your stars. If you have pics, send them.
Hashtag Love Washington.
Hashtag with Washington.
And we are